Hello, welcome to the Inside the Original Hotel
Seminar.
So today we've got with us Kevin Charity,
Hi.
we've got Edmund Dinkin, Paul Nunney and Dan Broad. Do you all want to just give a brief overview about your roles? You've got a shaking head there.
Kevin Charity. I run a company called the Coaching Group, which we operate 18 small, I still call them independent, 30-bedroom average coaching inns in market towns. Slightly sort of upper end, more premium, and really busy at the moment, going well.
Hi, I'm Edmund Dinkin and I run a little business called Eat, Drink, Sleep. Unlike Kevin, I can actually name each of my sites and only take about 20 seconds, so I will name them. They are the Vellenvart Griffin near Brecon, 8 bedrooms, the Gurnard's Head in West Cornwall, and the Old Coast Guard also in West Cornwall.
Afternoon, everyone. I'm probably better known as the founder of CastMark, the accreditation scheme for pubs, and I set up Stay in a Pub, which is an internet booking platform for pub accommodation in 2013, because I felt that pubs didn't have any presence on the internet, and with 80% of pubs people booking through the internet, it was important that they did have that.
I'm Dan Broad, and I'm a co-owner of the Beckford Group. We have 4 pubs with rooms in the West Country, Somerset and Wiltshire.
Brilliant. Okay, so we're talking about pubs and rooms, so inns. Many people think that rooms are a new business opportunity for pubs, and it's suggested that pubs must diversify to survive. So I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that. Dan, I know that you've said that they don't necessarily need to diversify to survive, but you think they need to offer a genuine guest experience. Could you just expand on that?
Oh God, I feel under pressure already. I just think, post-COVID and what we've all been through is that it's more important than ever that people do what they do well, and that guests are more demanding than ever, and I think if pubs do what they do well, they will thrive. I mean, adding rooms to pubs is obviously a massive benefit, particularly when you're in a more rural area, because you need a basic amount of guests to provide people to sit at the tables for the F&B offering. I don't think people should just add rooms to their pubs for the sake of it, because it is a very different skill set. And I think that's probably what I mean by sort of answering that, is everybody in hospitality should know what they do well, concentrate on that. If you can do rooms well, do rooms. I mean, obviously there's good margins. If you've got space upstairs, why not? That's probably where I'm coming from on that.
Brilliant. Paul, you mentioned that lockdown has given businesses the opportunity to revisit their business plan, and that rural pubs need to expand and do something special for their survival. Could you expand on that one?
Yes, I think basically you own a premises and you need to make it work hard for you. And obviously if you've got the facility for accommodation, that's one of the areas you should look at. I think COVID has given people the opportunity to revisit their retailing proposition, and I think people will have considered rooms. The other important thing I think with rooms, obviously it does give you revenue in food and drink, which is important. I think it's something like the cost of room, 40% extra is spent in the pub as well. And I think lastly for rural pubs, for their survival, I think accommodation is very useful, because a lot of people stay in pubs in a country environment.
And expanding on that, rural pubs, do you think that as people seek to travel domestically rather than abroad, do you think that they need to have that alternative accommodation option?
Well, I think it's funny, when I looked at the Visit England, Visit Britain website, you go to accommodation, drop down, you get hotels and B&Bs, which is everyone thinks about as accommodation. But more and more consumers are thinking of pubs as a place to stay. They obviously enjoy the experience now that pubs perhaps challenge restaurants on food, and I think they are definitely challenging hotels and accommodation. So we convinced Visit Britain that their drop-down menu should now have hotels, B&Bs and pubs, and that pubs now links through to 1,300 pubs on the Stone Pub website. And it's very interesting that 17% of the inquiries we're getting are coming from abroad. Obviously not too good in the last 12 months, but there's a great opportunity for inbound visitors to actually spend time in a pub because it's an icon.
Fab. Do either of you two have anything to add?
A bit. I mean, it's incredibly compelling, the maths of rooms. The margin will drop straight to the bottom line if you can make it work that way, and then there are lots of contingent revenues that come in, which are great. But you've got to be clear you want to run accommodation. A lot of pubs, I would say the vast majority of pubs in this country, have 2 or 3 or 4 bedrooms above them, the manager's flat. Now, changing what you do to run 2 or 3 bedrooms, you've got to think very, very hard about whether you want to do that. So whenever we're looking at a venue, and I'm sure it's the same for Dan and for Kevin, you're looking for scope. You want to be able to have 6, 7 minimum, 8, if you want to have a coherent product. Otherwise, really, you're just creating a place for people to stay, and then you've got to have breakfast sorted out. You've got to have housekeepers. It adds on a whole kind of level of extra hassle that you might not want to have. So we all say get bedrooms, but you've got to do it as part of your overall plan, and you want to be fairly sure that you can have the scope for it to make financial sense. Otherwise, you're essentially just probably building value into your landlord's property. And unless you've got a very long time horizon, there's not much point doing that.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, can you hear me? Yeah, sorry. I think all 3 elements, food, beverage and accommodation, got to blend together. We first started bedrooms just simply as a third income stream. We saw it as a way of paying the rent on a leasehold pub we had taken. But as we developed the product, I realised that actually, as everyone was saying, you can't play at bedrooms, you have to do it and do it properly. And in fact, the better you do it, the better the results, simple as that. But I often get asked the question, which is more profitable, bedrooms or food and beverage? It's the point that all 3 work together that makes it really start to sing. And I think we've been through a step change this summer. A lot of people used to talk about staycation. I never really truly saw it in the past. I always just nod and agree, yes, we get it, but I wasn't sure we ever did. This year we definitely have. And I actually think it's a step change. I think it's here to stay for quite a number of years now. So, if there's an advantage, if there's a possibility of adding bedrooms, it makes absolute sense and being part of that market.
Finding the balance between all the elements is important.
You've got to take all 3 elements seriously. That's the point, really. And I've seen it before where somebody treats the bedrooms as just a sort of secondary income, or vice versa. They're just purely bedrooms, and of course they don't really want the food and beverage. I think all 3 blended together is the best result, without doubt. And don't get me wrong, there's always a room for a niche, and I've stayed in places where there is no food offer on at all, and they work. But I think the blend of all 3 is a better case scenario.
Brilliant. We've also touched upon heritage with pubs, which you're quite passionate about, that you've said. And there's this idea that, what are your thoughts on the idea that inns were the original hotel?
Well, I think what I've ended up doing is a labour of love. Started off looking at rooms above a pub, but I've ended up really pushing towards a coaching in scenario. And the reason is they've been around for 300 or 400 years. They've got quite a track record, which means really they work. And they've been through all sorts of changes over those 200 or 300 years. But I just love the history in those, and I love the fact that actually you can use that historic value to market and actually use it as a PR mechanism. And I just love these old buildings, and they are the original hotel, simple as that. They were there to supply food and beverage and accommodation to the wayfarer, and that's exactly what we still do. And it's a privilege to be running these historic buildings that have seen lots of kings and queens. And of course, everyone we run has Dick Turpin story. He stayed in one of the rooms always. That's what I say.
Brilliant. How does heritage work with you 3? Like as the inns with the original hotel, do you see that? Do you agree that they are?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we started sort of about 12 years ago, there were very few good pubs with rooms. I mean, Edmunds actually were around before and was really the pioneer. I mean, I remember that rooms above the pubs were basically crap accommodation full of crappy furniture, a place you went and slept for 40, 50 quid a night that you fell into half drunk after you'd been to a local wedding or something, and it was just a very token gesture. So I think what's happened now, as Paul was saying, is this is a sector now, right? So it is the original hotel, the inn or the place that's going to give you kind of refuge. It's got all that history, and I think it's a real sector, and I think consumers or guests are looking for authentic, genuine things to do. They don't want to just stay in some tarted up hotel, fake boutique hotel, no disrespect if that's anybody's. They want something genuine that has some character and integrity to it, and I think that's up to us to make the most of.
And you think that using the heritage behind it is something that you can really
I think
push?
heritage is another word for authenticity, right? And I think that's what people want. They want something genuine and real that they can sort of live and breathe. And I think that's what pubs or coaching inns, that's what they evoke, and that's what we should sort of be playing on.
Do either you two have anything to add?
No, what was really interesting in the kind of the heart of the COVID crisis was how much the word the pub resonated with people. The word hotel didn't. It was the pub, and it caught an enormous amount of media attention. It was almost a kind of touchstone for people during lockdown, the pub reopening. So I think that's important. I think that plays to people's hearts, and I think over the next 5-10 years it puts the pub sector in a really good shape. People want to visit pubs for that experience, eating, drinking, sleeping as we do. One thing we do is we don't have televisions in our bedrooms, which people tend to gasp at, and we never have had. What it does, it changes the experience that people have. They're not in their bedrooms. They're enjoying an experience through the whole building. They're down in the bar, they're eating, they're drinking. I don't really care if they're not spending, but they're having a better experience by doing that. And it's things like that for me make a difference to the experience of being in a pub that can be very different from being in a hotel, because people love being in a bar that probably has been there for 300 or 400 or 500 years.
Can I just ask whether you market the fact that you don't have TVs?
Yeah.
And you think it works in your favour?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Dan shaking his head.
We'll always disagree on this one.
Do you want to explain why?
Well, I mean, I totally get the idea. It's a different experience, and I like the boldness of it. It's sort of like this sort of anti-technology thing of like, quite nice to go into a hotel or pub or whatever and park your phone and park your iPad, and you can really sort of enjoy the experience. It's sort of along the lines of that. I just think there are a certain amount of basic facilities that some people like, and when I'm having an argument with my wife, I quite like to watch the TV. Probably it's something like that.
You'd still be stuck in the same room though.
Well, yeah, there are minimum standards.
So moving on to marketing and creating desirability, I know we've just touched, there's a few comments that have been made. Paul, you've said it's important to use the internet and marketing it online. So in direct bookings, profitable. Do you want to expand how someone might do that?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I started staying in a pub for that very reason, that 80% of bookings are taken on the internet, and obviously using the Vivo booking engines and things like that. So the internet's really, really important. And I also think direct bookings are important, because obviously the likes of booking.com are taking 15-20% commission. So anything people can develop mailing lists, use the people who are coming and mailing to them, etc. I think the internet's absolutely key, and we're spending significant amounts of money on Google Ads because we just think that's the way to reach that audience. Because if they're if you're all searching, you're searching online, aren't you? So you need a presence. So it's really important.
Do you think it's important to find a balance between the OTAs and trying to push your own website?
Well, I think you need OTAs. I mean, we structured ourselves slightly different from an OTA in terms of not charging a commission, just charging a membership fee. So every time there is a booking, it's effectively a direct booking, because I think there is a cost to those OTAs. But you need them. You need these booking.coms to fill those extra rooms, because if there are empty rooms, it drops straight through, as we already said, to the bottom line. So it's a combination, but the more you can get direct, the more profitable it is to you.
Brilliant. One thing that I did find interesting when we were briefly talking beforehand was that both Dan and Kevin touched upon the "we don't believe in marketing," especially Dan, who said this, and you think that quality always triumphs. Can you explain why, the reasoning behind that?
I feel I've upset you already. Well, I mean, I think marketing is such a sort of loaded term, right? I mean, any hospitality business and pubs with rooms are the heart of British hospitality. They always have been and they always will be. I think anything that's driven by passion, the passion needs to come first. I mean, and marketing is a fringe activity. If you are reliant on OTAs, to pick up from the previous sort of point, you're not doing things right. I appreciate that you want to sell all your rooms, and that Booking.com's a great way to sort of dump those. But really, you're doing something fundamentally wrong with your engagement with your guests if you are having to rely on these kind of blanket tools. So I just come at, of course I believe in social media and marketing and all that stuff, but I think you are much better putting your effort into what you do, getting that right, and you will triumph, right? I mean, it's such a cliche, but it is true that word of mouth is your best marketing. And you just need to come at all marketing with that mentality.
Kevin, did you want to expand?
Yeah, I need to correct. I didn't say I don't believe in marketing. I think there's different ways to look at it. That's what I'm saying. And as Dan said about putting quality to something, there's a saying that give them quality and it'll be the best form of advertising. But we need the OTAs naturally to get them in the door. But ultimately, at that point, we've got these people for 15 hours. And we think it's our job to convert them into fans, and actually to convert, to get someone to repeat their trip, to come back again and visit again for a second, third, or even more times. That's got to be the key. So giving that genuine feel and genuine service, as Dan mentioned, and put that together with some quality, and actually it's quite easy to convert somebody into a fan and get them to book directly with you. And ultimately, that's the way we see our sort of marketing PR is about making sure people understand what we do and what we deliver. And hopefully they'll enjoy that and just keep returning.
Edmund?
Yeah, I mean, we've never used OTAs actually in 21 years. And I completely appreciate you can't immediately get to that point. But I think if anyone's going to have a marketing strategy, it should try to exclude OTAs over a period of, let's say, 2 years. You should try and build your word of mouth and repeat business and try and wean yourself off OTAs if you can, because they are such a leech on the profitability of what is a fairly marginal sector. It's difficult to make money in this sector. And if 20% of your net revenue is going on OTAs, your P&L is going to look pretty messy. So I would always recommend people look to have a strategy to get off them if they can. Different if you've got 20, 25, 30, 40 bedrooms, but for most of us who might have 5 or 10 or 15, try to find a way not to use them. And it really is possible. Databases, in-house marketing, just basic good word of mouth stuff, and being nice to people as well, that helps.
Is that the overall goal then?
Be nice to people, yeah.
Paul?
Yeah, I, as I said, I think booking direct is such a key part of the objectives of marketing, and you need to focus on that. And I agree. I do think you need OTAs, but you can wean off them. That's good. That's why we just have a membership fee. So, my argument is if we give you 2 bookings a year, that's paid for your membership fee. Then it's all free from then on. So I do think do everything right. Word of mouth is probably the best. We all know. We all listen to people what they say, and I had a great experience there. You want to go, and we look on the website and book. So that's probably the best marketing you can deliver, but you do need to market.
Can I just add?
What's quite interesting is the disappearance of guidebooks in all this. 10, 15 years ago, guidebooks played a real role in driving traffic towards us, and then they migrated to kind of digital guidebooks a bit more. But what's gone this year? Good Food Guide's gone this year. Good Hotel Guide's great. Sordays are doing a good job, but they're not guidebooks in the traditional sense. We have to look at marketing in different ways now.
Dan, did you want to add something?
I mean, Kevin said it. Basically, if you are reliant on OTAs, you need to make a priority of when you get that OTA booking, converting that person to a direct booking. And you're winning. Otherwise, it is a tax. It's a straightforward tax on your business, right? And I think the other thing just to add is the reason why Booking.com and things like that are successful is because it's very easy to use, right? And I hate Booking.com, but I use it, right? Because it's easy, particularly abroad or something like that. So invest in your website, as Paul was saying. Make it easy for the consumer. Treat your website and the booking experience as part of your guest experience, as if you were looking after them, and then people will come through your thing and not through somebody else's thing, basically.
I've heard a lot of people on about websites and making that customer journey a lot easier. And how would you recommend going about that? Would you recommend they go through it as if they were a customer?
I would say exactly that. I mean, it's such a simple thing to do, is just go on your own website and book a room and see how difficult it is and see the hurdles and the extra clicks you have to give, when really if you can shorten the process and make it as simple as possible. And actually the starting point is just try it for yourself. We've done that. We've made lots of mistakes in the past, and I'm not saying it's right now, but we'll always keep looking, always keep trying it. But no, definitely just try and make the journey as easy as possible every single time, without doubt.
Brilliant. Just moving on to another topic that we touched upon was, again, like the business having more than one revenue stream. Paul, you mentioned that, pubs offer the total package, and, it gives you the option to eat there as well as go out. And, that's obviously a better option for everyone because they don't have to go out and find somewhere. Can you explain how they work together?
Yeah, I mean, we've all of us have been talking about pubs offering the total package: eat, drink, and sleep. I mean, that's what it's about. And each of those needs to be judged in their own merit. My phone. And profit-wise, they complement each other. There's obviously 60% margin on food, drink, and 80% on pub accommodation. Everyone is basically buying each part of that when they do go for a stay. And I just feel that a pub has everything. And therefore you don't need to go elsewhere to, as I said, if you stay in a hotel, you think, well, where should we go and eat? Whereas if you stay in a pub, you're going to eat downstairs, because pubs are now so good at delivering food. And when you actually eat in the pub, you're joining the culture and the local people and the atmosphere and the dogs around the coal fire and what pubs are all about. So the friendly sociability of them, which I don't think you get in hotels, and certainly B&B is not comparable either. So I just think going forward, they tick so many boxes for what consumers want nowadays, and what they want to enjoy. And with staycation and people staying in the UK, you're going to get a lot more people seeking out pubs. As the other thing I do find is that, and target market here is that we found in sort of the early summer, people were booking houses to stay in, week's hotel here and so and so. They weren't booking pubs, because pubs tend to be 2 or 3 day stays, which I think is a market it needs to focus on. Obviously the retailers might disagree here, but I think that's the key market, the 2 or 3 day stay, and enjoy the area and learn about what's going on, and the pub ensuring that their customers know what facilities there are around for them to enjoy. So you're almost marketing to them when they're there to make them enjoy their stay.
Do any of you have any tips on how to make the three fit together and work well together?
Well, it is tough, right? Because it is three things that jigsaw beautifully together from a guest experience. It forms a really lovely, sort of cozy sort of guest experience in a coaching inn or in a pub or whatever. But they are very different beasts as well. I mean, running a restaurant is very different to running a hotel, right? These are different skill sets. So I think Edmund was saying at the beginning is make sure you kind of know what you're doing, because you might be able to run a great pub, you might be able to run great rooms, can't necessarily do both, and you sort of need to do both well, because if you do one badly and one well, that will work against each other.
Yeah, make sure you want to do it. Make sure you want to have guests. a lot of people don't. I mean, I don't particularly like guests, but I've got teams who are great at loving guests. But, you know, I hear the gravel going on our drive, I go, oh, God, not another guest. But I've got a great person at the front who can go and deal with it. The thing we do, which I think has worked brilliantly from a marketing point of view, I'm not quite so sure financially, is we package up our dinner, bed and breakfast, and we probably have for 15 years now, and 95% of our guests are on a dinner, bed and breakfast rate, and we occasionally put other things in it, but don't overcomplicate it. Don't have a range of about 20 different offers, some with Prosecco, some with champagne, some for the 14th of February, some for the 31st of December. It's a nightmare. Just keep it really simple, straightforward. And we like packaging it up because we like to minimize the purchase decisions that a guest wants to make. We want them only to think about the price of, well, not the price, but buying a cocktail or a bottle of wine or whatever it is. We don't want them focusing on, shall I have the £18 main course or the £24 main course? And I think over the years that's worked really well. I think our market buy into that, but I think we've probably thrown away a bit of margin on it.
I mean, it is different in a rural locations, you said before, to in a town centre, more like Kevin's places, because you can signpost people to other nice places in the town, in the market towns. In our places and Edmund's places, you know, they're kind of in the middle of nowhere, so why would you as a guest want to go anywhere else? So, you know.
I think it's interesting what you're saying is know your market, because actually they're all so diverse, all these businesses, they really are. And you could be almost next door to another venue, but it can be so different. And as opposed to you, Evan, we've always seen ourselves as food and beverage operators, and we've sort of got a self-contradiction, because we concentrate our food and beverage as if to say it's just purely really for the local market. And if our bedroom guests want to use it, well, that's great. But actually, it's the fact that then all three do blend together. But we've got the fortune that we've got natural footfall. But I just love the fact that everyone's different, and it is also, there's no one fits all. But knowing your market is the key.
The other sort of interesting thing with that is if you're marketing, as in a pub or your places, to local guests, then that provides local colour, which is part of the reason why people are staying in the bedrooms, because they want to feel it's a real place that local people go to. It's not just an island, that guests drop into, and it doesn't really connect with the local community. So I think that's a really important part of the feel.
And I think we're in a dangerous moment now where a lot of pricing policy in the industry has gone quite aggressively over the last 6 months, because it can. And it'll be quite interesting to see as things settle down whether we're at the right price points and people locally are prepared to pay the prices that are in place at the moment.
Fab. I think we're nearly out of time. Not sure if we have time for a quick Q&A. Does anyone have any questions for our panellists? No? Look, we've done a really good job then.
Or a poor one.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's it. Thank you very much for coming to today's panel. If you'd like to give our panellists a round of applause.
Cheers.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.